Hey everybody, welcome back. So let's get into some numbers here. Rough Riders Inc. manufactures jeans in the cutting and sewing process. It's a weird sentence. Okay, jeans are manufactured in 50 jean batch sizes, right? That's a big batch, and we just know from the pencil example, it's not necessarily a good idea to have a big batch size. Cutting time is 6 minutes per jean. The sewing time is 15 minutes per jean. It takes 5 minutes to move them from cutting to sewing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break this down into value-added time. Ooh. Oh, it's upside down. My little writing board here. Okay, let's try that again. All right, we'll make that a V. Value-added time. And we'll do non-value-added time. All right, so our value-added time is the time we're actually working on the product, which is 6 minutes and 15 minutes, the time we're actually like making the jean. So we're looking at 21 minutes of value-added time. Actually, we'll put it over here on the right. Probably should have colon. All right, non-value-added time. Well, non-value-added time is going to be two things. You've got a move time in here. It takes 5 minutes to move a batch of jeans from one process to the next. That move time is non-value-added. All right, now the other one, the within batch wait time. Okay, within batch wait time. If you remember the formula I showed you in the last one, the idea is what you're going to do is if there's a 50 jean batch size, that means while you're working on one pair of jeans for 21 minutes, all the other 49 pairs are sitting around doing nothing. All right, that's that within batch wait time. So the calculation for that is going to be the value added time, 21 minutes, right, times the batch size minus 1. All right, so 21 minutes times 49, which is 1,029 minutes. So the non-value added time is 1,034 minutes. Okay, all right, so we've got it broken into value added, non-value added, but the entire lead time, okay, so that's the value added, the non-value added, see part A there, and the total lead time. So the total is going to be value plus the non-value, so 1,034 plus 21 is going to be 1,055. That is your total lead time. Okay? So if you think about it, whatever 1,055 is, let's see, let's divide that by 60. Always the accountant with a trusted calculator nearby. That's 17.5 hours. You're working on the pair of jeans for 21 minutes, but it takes you 17.5 hours to get them out the door because the batch size is so big. All right, so the last part of this, I'm going to have to do it kind of over here because I'm out of space. It asks you for the value-added ratio. Well, the value-added ratio is the value-added time divided by the entire lead time, right? So if of this entire process, only 2% of it is value-added. All right, so what can we do to fix this? One of the things we do, we reduce the batch sizes. Maybe we only make 5 pairs of jeans per batch, right? So they flow more quickly through the system rather than this huge batch size of 50. 50 goes to one, is sitting, hogging the whole process, and then it goes to the next process and hogs the whole process. Instead, do 5, 5, 5, 5, right? Make it faster, keep the processes flowing. The other thing you could do is you could move the processes right next to each other so that there is no move time, all right? And that's one of the things of just-in-time is to eliminate the move time by putting the processes like contiguous or right next to each other. All right, so that is really, to be honest, that's your real math for this chapter. All right, there's going to be a couple of problems you have to do, and I'm going to show you one of them, or I'm going to start you on one of them as I do when I know that there's one that students tend to have difficulty with, and that happens to be this one. Don't worry, I'm not doing your homework for you, but I'm going to show you where students get stuck on this one. Okay, so what they have you do is they have you calculate traditional manufacturing, like what is the time with 45 unit batch size, as it says here. Here see 45 minutes. And then they say, now what if? Okay, so we have this regular way of doing things, and they give you all the data to figure out the value added and non-value added. And then the second part of it, it says, okay, now what if, right? So it's almost like we draw the line here. Okay, so now what if instead of 45 units, we reduce the batch size to 3 and we reduce the move times? Okay, so then you run it as a lean manufacturing you do it again with value-added, non-value-added, but from a lean manufacturing standpoint, okay? So you're comparing traditional to lean. That's not where students get stuck, though. I just wanted to kind of give you that heads up on that's how the problems are going to be done. Here's where they get it done. This particular one has 4 processes. And it says the time required to move each batch between steps is 5 minutes. So what students do is they go 5, 5, 5, 15 minutes. Because they don't read the second sentence. Or maybe they do, but don't process what it means. The second sentence says, in addition, the time to move from raw materials to process step 1 is also 5 minutes. And the time to move the completed units from process 4 to finished goods, FG, is also 5 minutes. So you have 5, that's supposed to be a 5. You have 5 at the beginning, 5, 5, 5, and 5 to move it into the finished goods inventory. Okay, so I just want to call out to you, you don't have 3 moves, you have 5 moves. All right, and that's it. Don't worry, you can do the rest of the problem on your own. Last piece. I told you this chapter doesn't have a lot going on. Well, and plus I told you I was also cherry picking and choosing what I wanted to talk about. So we're keeping it simple. We're not simple, but we're keeping it to the stuff that I wanted to talk about. All right. So one of the other things with just-in-time is creating a product-oriented layout, right? You design the manufacturing process around the product you're making, rather than saying, well, that is painting, and that is sanding, and that is this. Instead, it makes sense to focus on what is the end product and how would it make the most sense in order to break it down to come up with our processes. Okay, I can't give you a great example there, but the idea is that you need to be looking at the product, not the processes, when you design the layout of the manufacturing process. Okay, employee involvement. You want a team-oriented approach. You want people to be able to do each other's jobs, which is cross-training your employees, because what if employee A is backed up? Employee B might be able to step in and help with employee A a little bit if they also know how to do employee A's job. Okay, so the idea is that, rather than creating potentially a bottleneck if something happens and somebody slows down, you want your employees to be able to help one another in their processes. Okay, this is also, by the way, this just-in-time lean manufacturing is actually considered pull manufacturing. All right, what pull manufacturing is it's as if customers drive the manufacturing process. That customer picking up the phone and saying, I need a dozen pencils, is what's driving the manufacturing process, right? They are pulling the product down through the supply chain, basically, through the manufacturing process. The customer saying, I want 12 whatever, the process starts until it gets down to the customer, okay? Like I said, the request is the catalyst for production. Nothing is happening until that customer requests the product. That is different than traditional manufacturing, which is referred to as push manufacturing. The idea of push manufacturing is figure the manufacturing process, let's say, starts up here. It's as if they're pushing the products down to the customers. They're just making them hundreds and hundreds a day, and they're putting them on the shelves saying, buy these, buy these, buy these. So it's the manufacturing push, the maker of the product pushing the products down to the end users, okay, or end purchasers, and they hope that they're all bought, right? Okay, a couple more things at lean manufacturing. I think we're just about done. Oh, we're close. All right. 0 defects, that's emphasized, right? Because what happens when you have a defect? That just creates more rework, that's more time, that's wasted time. So they're really careful in lean manufacturing about having 0 defects, all right? So their quality control is just insane, because otherwise you've slowed down the entire process. The whole point of this is that we make it as smooth and as fast as possible. So now if people are messing up or if something's happening with the products, you've now just completely kiboshed and you've lost all of that amazing flow you had. All right, supply chain. It's important that if you are going to have a lean manufacturing process, that your suppliers are on board with that, right? Because the idea is, let's say that I'm making cars. Maybe I'm not the one, I make cars, but I'm not the one who maybe manufactures the seats, okay? Maybe I'm making sports cars and Recaro. That's right, I said a car thing. that come from a car family. Let's say Recaro is the ones who manufacture the seats. I need to be able to, as the person, the sports car manufacturer, I need to be able to pick up the phone and say, Recaro, I need 60 seats sent to me today. And they come to me within minutes. Minutes might be an exaggeration, but you get the idea. Because otherwise they've held up my whole process. And they've destroyed my whole lean manufacturing thing. So your suppliers have to have just as strong a buy-in on your lean manufacturing process. Okay. Last things, I promise. All right, lean accounting. The thing is with this accounting system is when you're doing lean manufacturing, it doesn't really make sense to have a raw materials inventory so much. Because what happens is, like, let's say those Recaro seats. They come in the door, they go right into production. Is there a point that the seats come in and sit on my shelves as inventory? No, because they're like right back out. They're getting put directly into WIP. Right? They come in, they go right into the cars. So the idea there, it's a wasted step basically, to journalize them to raw materials and then take them out of raw materials and put them into WIP. So what we do is we debit something called raw and in-process inventory rather than raw materials and then a WIP. We basically are putting them right into the WIP, and that's an asset inventory account used with lean accounting. Okay. Backflush accounting, last term, I promise, and then we're done. That's it. You're done listening to me. Aren't you excited? Don't be excited. You should be sad. All right. Anyway, sorry. I guess I'm getting punchy. Backflush accounting. No accumulating costs by processes or departments. Instead, all direct material, direct labor, and factory overhead costs go straight to finished goods inventory. So think about all this stuff we were doing in like chapter 3. We were accumulating costs per the process, and then we were moving, direct material, direct labor, factory overhead, right? And putting it into factory overhead and then rolling all those costs to the next process, and direct material, direct labor, factory, right? All of those things would said, because these things are in and out faster than the accountant could journalize it. Right? Somebody places an order and 5 hours later it's out the door. When does the accountant have time to do all the journalizing? They don't. So instead, we just accumulate it all to finished goods, and then it becomes cost of goods sold, all of those costs. All right? We kind of ignore that whole process thing. I know. All right. You're done. Congratulations. I'm done. Yay for me. Yay for you. All right. But that's it. Like I said before, that we're covering in this chapter what I covered in these slides, or this video. But that's it. So don't worry about the other stuff in the chapter. By all means, read it if you so desire, but I won't be testing you on it. Have a great day, everybody.